Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to thank the Almighty God. It is because of Him I'm able to finish and present my final research paper. Secondly, I'd like to thank to my supervisor, Mr. Yana S.Pd M.Hum and Mr. Lukman Arif Rachman M.Pd, who always guide and also help me in processing my research paper. So before we're going to the next slide, let me introduce myself. My name is Helsa Feby Kurnia. I'm an English Education student 2018 from English Education Study Program, Faculty of Language Education, IKIP Siliwangi. So everyone, this video is made for the requirements of my final project for Sarjana Pendidikan degree in English Education. So let's get started to the topic now. So my thesis is under the title Developing DIA, or in Indonesia we can say DIA as the abbreviation from Detext Interactive Application in Learning Writing Descriptive Text. So next, here are my presentation outlines. So there are 5 outlines. So the first one is background of the research, the second one is objective of the research, and then the third one is the methodology. And in methodology, I'm gonna explain about 5 points. That the first one is research method, the second one is research design, the third one is instrument of the research, the fourth one is data collection, and then the last one is data analysis techniques. Okay, next is the result of the research, and then the last one is the conclusion of the research. So let's get started to the first outline. As the background of the research. So we can see from the screen that the first one is writing is important. So according to Rizky et al. 2020, say that writing is important because it is one of the difficult skills that students should be mastered. So it's based on the preliminary study also. I found that the student was not really interested in learning writing, and it's connected to the next theory from Amina 2018 that say the student have some difficulties in writing. From this theory, we can conclude that why that student was not interested in learning writing. It is because writing is the difficult skill that they should be mastered. So why in this research the researchers choose writing skills in developing this research. So next is the urgency. So the urgency, it's still related to the previous theory that said motivation and attitudes of the students are very low in writing, studied by Bassett 2020. Why? It is because writing class was usually known as a passive class. So based on the preliminary study also, I found the writing class is only do the writing activities. There is no interaction between students and teachers, and then also all of them just doing writing. It's like a silent class, so it's gonna be not interesting. So I think it's make the students motivation slow in writing. And then the next one, the media is not varied in learning writing. So it also based on the preliminary studies that I found, the students still depends in the textbook and also still depends on the teachers. So I think the media was not varied in learning writing. Instead, the media is able to increase the student motivation in the process of learning writing. So while that writing class is not interesting and the student motivation in learning writing it was low, it is because the media is not varied, and also writing class is known like a silent class. So why that here based on G23 cited in Anissa DK Marmanto 2020, say that media is able to increase the students' motivation. Therefore, in this research, the researcher choose to develop the media in increasing the student motivation in learning writing. In this research, the researchers try to develop the media in the form of application, because nowadays the ICT or information and communication technology was increased, and all people know about the gadget, known about the internet, and also the student I think get used to be used the smartphone and so on. So the researchers decided to develop the media in the form of application. The researchers tried to develop the media by combining 3 different tools. It started from the PowerPoint. I think everyone's know that PowerPoint is famous and familiar because everyone know the PowerPoint in delivering the materials. So but here PowerPoint is still one directional communication. So why here the researcher tried to combine with another tools, namely iSpring Suite. iSpring Suite is very useful in making the PowerPoints more interactive, like added and provided some varied exercises. It's gonna be like true or false, matching, fill the blanks, and also jumble word, jumble sentence, and still many more. So I think it's gonna be completed PowerPoint. It's gonna be two directional, because here also the student can get the feedback directly from the combination of these tools. In creating these two tools to be one, it still need one another tools, namely web APK builders. It makes PowerPoint and iSpring Suite to be one new applications by converting in this app, by converting in web APK builders. So here, the researcher combining three different tools to be one new learning application, that namely DIA, or it's the abbreviation from Detext Interactive Applications. That can be more practicals. There is the materials, there is exercises, and also there is a feedback that students gonna be get directly. Why the researcher tried to develop media in the form of application? It's based on the Farida et al. 2020 stated that multimedia in the form of application can help students to improve their understanding of the lessons, and also help the teacher as a facilitator to explain the material interestingly using the multimedia. And then the last one is the descriptive text. The descriptive text is the basic subject in improving the student skill in writing. And then the next one, based on English competency point 3.4 and 4.4, descriptive text is one of the genres that students should be mastered in 8th grade of junior high school students. Therefore, based on the background, the researcher aims to develop the media, namely DIA, the text interactive application, in learning writing descriptive text. Okay, next, let's go to the next one. It's the objective of the research. There are 4 objectives of the research. The first one is to describe the process and result of developing DIA. The second one is to know the feasibility of developing DIA. The third one is to describe the student responses toward DIA. And then the last one is to describe the obstacles that are faced when developing DIA or DIA or the text interactive application. Next is methodology. So this research used research and development based on Sugiono 2008, page 297, cited in Sitipu et al. 2019, also said that the development research was the study that created some products through the taste to know the feasibility of the products. And then the next one is the research design. The researcher used the research and development approach by adapting Borg and Gale 2003. There were 10 steps in this model, but the researchers only took 6 steps. There are need analysis, planning, developing preliminary form of product, preliminary field testing revision, and main field testing. So next, it's the subject of the research. The subject of the research were the 43 students in the 8th grade from junior high school in Cimahi. The first one is 10 students were taken from preliminary field testing, and then 33 students were taken for the main field testing. Next is the data collection. The first one is the researcher's journal. Researcher's journal is still the same as the field notes. This instrument is used to answer the research question number 1 and number 4, that to know the process and result of developing DIA, and then to know the obstacle when developing DIA. Okay, and the next one is the validation sheet. So validation sheet is used to know the feasibility of DIA. It's to answer the research question number 2, and then the next one is questionnaire. Questionnaire is used to answer the research question number 3. It's to know the student responses toward DIA. And then the last one is the interview. Interview is used to strengthen the result of the questionnaire in knowing the student's opinion and the student's perspective of DIA or the text interactive application. And then the last one is the data analysis technique. The researcher used qualitative data and quantitative data in analysis the data. So here are the steps in developing DIA that the researchers only took 6 steps because of the limited time and also degree. The first one is need analysis, which doing the preliminary studies and reviewing the literatures. And then the next one is the researchers start to plan what the media that should develop, and then the researchers choose to develop the media in the form of application, namely DIA. And then next is developing preliminary form of DIA by combining 3 different tools. There are iSpring Suite, PowerPoints, and web APK builders. And then next is preliminary field testing of DIA. We're taken 10 students in knowing what's the weaknesses of DIA, and then there are the preliminary field testing revision. After knowing what is the weaknesses, there is some improvement. And then the last one is main field testing of DIA, which take a wider student. It's taken 33 students of junior high school in Cimahi at the 8th grade. And then next is the result of the research. The first one is the process and result of developing DIA. To answer the research question number 1, the researchers have 3 steps in knowing the process and result. They're pre-developing, developing, and post-developing. So here are the result of pre-developing, developing, and post-developing. And it's post-developing after converted into the form of application. And here I'd like to show the result of developing dia. Here it is.
Hello everyone. Welcome to English class. Today we are going to learn about descriptive text. Let's get started our class. Here are the main menu. Angklung. Angklung or angklung is one of the traditional musical instruments from West Java. Thank you everyone. See you in the next meeting.
Okay, the next one is the visibility result of developing dia. Here are the tables that the researchers get from the validation sets. It's from the validator 1 as the supervisor 1, and then the validator 2 as the supervisor 2, and then validation from an English teachers. So the visibility score from the validator 1, validator 2, and an English teachers were above 90%, which indicated as a very valid media based on Arikunto 2009, page 35. So it's mean dia is visible and worth to use and apply by the students at school. Then the next one is the student responses toward dia. Here are the table. The students' responses scores to the quality of DIA were divided into two stages as preliminary and main field testing. Both field testing were above 80%, which indicated as a good media based on Arikunta 2006. So it's mean DIA or Detext interactive application get a good responses from the students. And the next is the student responses toward DIA to each aspect in the questionnaires. So here are the diagram we can see from the screens. From the diagram above, it can be concluded that the highest positive responses score to each statement from the students are in the motivation aspect, with a percentage of 90.9%, which means DIA was able to increase the student learning writing descriptive text. Okay, and all of the category is more than 75%. So also it means that DIA in every aspect categorized as a good media based on Arikunto 2006. Okay, and then the next one is still the student responses toward the DIA, but it's through the interview related to the DIA. So the result of the student's interview shows that they agree that DIA is able to increase their motivation in learning writing descriptive text, and DIA is also able to provide complete material and varied exercises. The students mostly wanted DIA to be used continuously in the process of learning, especially in learning writing descriptive text. And then the next one is the researcher's obstacle in developing DIA. It's the same as in knowing the process and results. So in knowing the obstacle, also the researchers divided the step into three steps. It's pre-developing, developing, and post-developing. In developing steps, the first obstacle is insufficient researchers' laptop storage. It's detaining the process of developing DIA because we need to combine three different tools. But in the end, it's gonna be went smoothly because the solution is deleted all the transfers, all the unuseful application in my laptop, so it's provided empty storage for combining the different tools. And then the next one, it was difficult to edit the contents of the application after publishing. Yeah, if there is a mistake in the application after publishing, it's really hard. It has to start from the very first place again because it can be edited, so it has to started from the very first place again. So far, although there were some obstacles, the researchers still can handle. And then the last one is the conclusion of the research. Okay, the first one, the process and result of developing the media went smoothly. Although there was some revision, in the end the media, namely DIA or DIA, was able to apply and work using after a very long process. And then the next one, DIA, Detext interactive application in learning writing descriptive text, is visible and very valid to apply at school. And then the next one, the students' responses toward DIA is good. Most of the students gave a good response to the DIA. They agree that DIA is able to increase their motivation in learning writing descriptive text, providing a complete materials and varied exercises. The students mostly wanted DIA to be used continuously in the process of learning. And then the last one, although there are some obstacles in developing DIA, but it is still able to be handled and went smoothly. In the end, the media, namely DIA or Detext interactive application, was able to apply and work used after a very long process and face some the difficulties. Thank you. I think that's all for my presentations. I do really apologize if I have a lot of mistakes in speaking, and thank you so much for your paying attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.